So in today's video, we're going to be comparing the R9 versus the Origin 12 shotgun on various different data points and trying to figure out which one is the best for Warzone. If you do enjoy the video, learn something new, make sure you do hit that like button. Goal on today's video is 3,000 likes. If you can help me hit that number, definitely be appreciative of that. If you're brand new, looking to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, just make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Heads up, my Gfuel code is still discounted to 30% off all the way until the 7th of September. So if you're looking to restock or try something new, there's plenty of sample options on the site. Link down in the description or just code JGOD at checkout. So the reason why we're even including the R9 shotgun is because it got an update recently that allowed it to get Dragon's Breath rounds. You just need to get slide kills while using the shotgun. Pretty straightforward. You can pretty much do it in one match, especially on shipment. So because of that, it actually gave this thing a little bit more range than it had before. And because of that difference, it kind of allowed it to be a little bit more broken in Warzone when it otherwise wouldn't have been. And you really didn't see this in Warzone at all, unless it was like one of the first seasons where it was actually a floor loot weapon. I think that's what's happening with the Origin, is so many people are picking up at the floor loot that they end up just sticking with it because the floor loot is still pretty decent without the range attachments or the choke that are going to help it out. So let's look at how they compare head to head. So test number one is movement speed. And pretty much what I did is I lined them up same spot. They go from point A to point B, and pretty much you just see which one ends up reaching the end first. Nothing crazy, pretty straightforward, standard test. Obviously, the longer the range, the more accuracy you're going to have from just walking. But there's different variables that get into there. You know, you got the double time, tag sprint, that type of stuff. So head to head, you can see the R9 ended up touching the wall faster. And it wasn't much faster. You can see the R9 ends up touching the wall right around 17 seconds, a little bit over. And then when we get to the Origin on the right-hand side, you can see that it ends up touching the wall at about 18 seconds. So half a second later, over the course of 76 meters, it ends up being only half a second, which isn't huge because generally how you want to play with these weapons anyways is you're going to kind of stick to the edge of a doorway or bait an opponent where maybe you shoot them, you know they're coming to the building, then you kind of weasel your way into the building in a awkward position where you know you're going to be at that two-shot kill range, and that's the key here is the two-shot kill as we get into the damage. But that's just kind of how that works there. Head to head, the R9 ends up coming a little bit ahead in terms of actual movement speed. Let's go ahead and look at the strafe speed. On the left, R9, right is Origin, and then as you will see them move, this one ended up being pretty much even. I kind of started them at the exact same frame, and they pretty much touched the wall about the same. You can see that one was a little bit faster, but you're not going to be strafing that long. But overall, it looked like the Origin had a little bit better strafe speed. Obviously, there's different attachments you could play with to kind of maybe get this a little bit faster. If you're doing a no stock attachment or something like that. So there are some different options with different loadouts that you can actually manipulate here. But this is just a standard best class setup for each. Not a significant difference in the movement side. There's a 1-in-1 tie basically at that point. So they kind of even each other out. Next one is ADS speed. One thing I don't think a lot of people do is care about ADS speed with the shotgun because they're so used to just hip firing with the shotgun. And we're going to see that it's incredibly important to be already aimed down sight with these weapons because there's a significant difference in consistency when you're hip fire versus aim down sight. So you almost always want to prioritize being aimed down sight the way you would with pretty much any other weapon, even if you're close, just because the way the pellet spread works, unless you're within a certain range, you definitely want to make sure you're aimed down sight because it could easily double your time to kill, which is not a good thing when you're trying to insta-melt someone, which is basically why you run one of these shotguns. So over here on the ADS speed, it goes too dang fast. The system's not able to load with it. But pretty much if I go little by little, you can see that they pretty much ADS right around the same thing, right around that, what is that, 350. This one on the left is a little bit faster, maybe around 300 there. And then this one's right around 334. So there's like a 30 millisecond difference. The Origin is a little bit slower, at least in that sense. But from a practical sense, they pretty much ADS almost about the same time. Now let's go ahead and talk about the rate of fire. So what I did is I set them up so that they fire pretty much at the same time. And I made it so they both have 12 rounds, even though technically the R9 has 14. And what you'll notice is when you see this particular setup is that You can see how fast one gets done. The Origin's already done with 12 bullets, and the R9 has a huge delay between shots. It's right around that 600 milliseconds, which is huge. Like, you could fire off 5 rounds by the time this person reloads, and that's kind of the point I wanted to make with this. You can see that the Origin is done over here at 2.8 seconds, and the R9 doesn't get done with those same number of shots until about 4.7. So it takes 2 seconds longer to fire the same number of shots. So you have to even use these weapons a little bit differently. You're really trying to only go for 2-shot kills with the R9, because if it goes to a 3rd shot, you're essentially tripling your time to kill to a certain extent. And that's what we're going to look at right now, because that is where these guns really separate themselves between who's the top dog and who's going to be the most consistent. And you kind of pick your poison, which one's going to work for you. If someone just happens to be at the end of that 2-shot or 3-shot in the Origin's case, or even maybe 4-shot kill range, they're going to kill you with an MP5. They're not going to let you live to get off that extra shot. And if you're not ADSing, TTK is basically going out the window, and you're almost guaranteeing you're going to lose that gunfight. So I pretty much went into the game and I did some different test shots. And what we're looking for on the top right here, where the health is before you get shot, your health is at 300. And if you're looking to die in Warzone, you need a damage profile of at least 125, because 125 times 2 will get the kill shot of full plated enemies, which is basically 250 damage. So anything less than 125 for a single shot will not kill in 2 shots. And then obviously do the math, because the way the damage drop off stuff works. But pretty much what we're able to see right here is this is the 2-shot kill range of the R9. I know I have it really small here, but pretty much it's 100 milliseconds for how fast it fires. It's just doof, doof. Pretty much it has that weird noise. You guys know it. Well, I'll play it right here. So right here, you can see it did 112 damage, even with the Dragon's Breath rounds. And as we inch a little bit closer, then we're going to get the 125 damage we need, which it ends up being 132. 132 times 2 is 264. That is enough to kill someone. So that distance right there makes it so it ends up being a 3rd shot if you're 1 inch further back. So that's what the test of the concept is here. And you can see that range is still pretty decent. It's not like super crazy, but this is while ADS'd. If you're hip firing, completely different story. You're basically going to just have tons of inconsistency, because you're not going to control where your pellets go. It just doesn't happen. So my buddy Earl Shatter, he's over here with an Origin, and we're both going to fire our shots. At this range, the R9 is going to go ahead and kill in 2 shots. He's not going to get a death shot here because of the way the health is. We're over 300 health. But it's going to require him to get actual extra 3 or 4 shots in, where it's not going to get a kill shot. So if we look at this here, so they ended up having to fire 3 shots, but I've already dealt the damage. They would have been dead. In a head-to-head, this is where the R9 wins. 10 out of 10. If you're aim down sight, you win every single time, because it's 100 milliseconds versus 446 milliseconds. No shot that the Origin wins here, unless the R9 just happens to miss. So that's just something to be aware of. That's how that head-to-head works. Now we're going to look at where the Origin actually wins. So right over here at this range, that extra inch further back, you end up having to have that little delay between shots, which ends up being 600 milliseconds. So your TTK goes from 100 up to 700 for the R9, and then for the Origin, it still has the 446 at this individual range, which is 3 shots to kill. And you're going to see how this particular one pans out. So right here, it only did 110 damage, which means if you do 2 shots with the R9, you're only going to get 220 damage, which is going to leave your enemy with 30 health, unless they just happen to have 2 plates. Then you could kill them in this case, but you don't want to bank your strategy on the fact of whether or not your enemy has 3 plates or 2. It's just not sound, consistent strategy. Could you get the kill off? Yes. Do you want to bank on that? Probably not. So right here, is let's look at the Origin now. I switch weapons, and this is the range at which the Origin is a 2-shot, meaning that you're getting 200 or you're getting 125 damage or more, and that will allow you to get a 2-shot kill. So here's the range in action. This one does 204, and as you step away, it actually drops off, so it requires a 3rd shot. So that's not really going to help you. But the 3rd shot distance is actually pretty forgiving. And this is what we're talking about with the Origin, where they go head to head. If the Origin is right outside that range, it's going to have the advantage over the R9 because of that long delay between shots, and it's still going to kill faster. But this is where the damage drop off is, and it'll end up taking an extra shots to kill. So that's pretty much what this is here. It ends up doing 96 damage. And again, 96 times 2 would not be enough. You definitely need a 3rd shot, but that is where that damage drops off, and then it becomes a 4-shot. So anything beyond this will be a 4-shot to kill, which basically drops its TTK down all the way to 668, which means it is still faster than the R9 with the 700 millisecond time to kill. So pretty much within that R9 2-shot range, the R9 wins, hands down. But the Origin's going to be a little more consistent if you miss a shot. There's no reload delay or that little delay between shots. You don't have to worry about it. You just spam it. The shots come out faster. The other part is once you get beyond that little range that the R9's in, the Origin is always better. Not better than an MP5 or some other SMGs, but the Origin is always better outside of that range. So it's kind of like a head-to-head. You're going to get more consistency with the Origin. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the ADS part of it. Here's the big difference here. People don't realize how big a difference the ADS factors into landing your shot. So we'll go ahead and go over here. So the damage drop off can be pretty significant. It ends up going from around 72 to half that, right around 36, because what happens when you're aimed down sight, the bullet spread is just tighter. If a target is further away, you're 100% want to aim down sight. And you can see how the spread tightens. So some pellets aren't going to connect the same way, and you're just going to deal less damage, and you're going to deal like half the damage. So that's why there's so much inconsistency where you feel like, man, I got 3 hit markers and the guy killed me in 2. Well, it's because they're aiming down sight and you probably weren't. So definitely pay attention to the kill cam, and get in the habit of ADSing when you can, because you will deal more damage. And then we got the 4-shot. This is where it basically becomes unusable, but still pretty good at ADS. If you're focused on ADS, you can see that the damage right around here is still 72, and that was the damage drop off right there, where it dropped off to 48. So the difference 48 down to 32, even on the ADS and not, you're talking about an extra 16 damage, 50% more damage from aiming down sight, which is pretty significant. So head to head, I would say that if I had to choose a weapon, I'm going to go with the MP5, right? And just try to maintain my distance. But the way the game is being taken over by the Origins, the Origin is probably the better and more consistent option. But if you just want to do some game-breaking stuff every once in a while, even though you're not going to have consistency, the R9 ends up taking the title for that, because it's going to destroy someone in 100 milliseconds, which is almost as fast as if you just got sniped with 1 shot. That's what it's going to feel like. So either way, both of them have incredible time to kill up close, but the R9 is going to delete somebody. Let's go ahead and talk about the class setups. So the first one up is the R9, and pretty much for both shotguns, they're built pretty similarly. I'll talk about some of the things you could change. Primarily, you want the choke, the tac sentry, and the Dragon's Breath rounds. Those are the main 3. One thing you could swap out here is most people will go with the 5 milliwatt, but because of the importance of aim down sight, you might want to go with the tac laser. But it really just depends on your comfort and skill level. Some people get away with the 5 milliwatt primarily because they're trying to close that distance. So basically they're touching their enemy, because if they're touching their enemy, they're going to delete them, right? But if you end up going to an issue where you're focusing on hip fire, it's going to be wildly inconsistent. So that's why it really comes into how skillful you are, which one of these you're going to end up going with. I think in general, most people go with the 5 milliwatt, even though in reality, the tac laser is better suited for it, because you want to be aimed down sight in as many scenarios as you can, because that's going to lead to more consistent pellet spread, which we saw in that difference between shots. Merc foregrip is good for a couple different things. Recoil control if you're going to be spamming this so you can still see your target. Generally, it gets a little bit out of hand anyways just because of the Dragon's Breath rounds, but it also helps with aim down sight speed. When it comes to the Origin, we got a similar setup for the same exact reasons. Choke, Impaler, 5 milliwatt or tac laser, and then we got the Merc, same thing that we talked about, and then the 12 round mags. If you don't care about being significantly slower, you can go with the 25 round drum mag, but in general, the 12 is usually plenty if you choose your distances appropriately, because you should be able to kill 3 people fairly consistently with 4 shots apiece, right? You get 12 shots, as long as you're not missing. 4 shots should be plenty to down people. If you're outside that range, odds are you've already died. You didn't have a chance. So that's pretty much how that works. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new. If you do, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If there's other head-to-head videos you'd like me to do on the channel, make sure you comment that down below. If you're looking to find your way back for whatever reason, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Again, reminder, Gfuel until the 7th if you're looking to stock up or try something new. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.